here I am down on the floor of the sanctuary, and here is the organ in all of its splendor. It's a very unique organ. It was built in 1975 by Gerhard Hradetzgy, who is Austrian. It was one of his very first organs. And in the 70s, there was this trend to build organs like they were built in the 17th and 18th centuries. People were kind of rediscovering that music and those organs, and it was very popular to be building organs in that way. And so this organ is truly what I call a neo-Baroque organ, in that it doesn't have any electronic help. Everything you must do by hand or by foot. And so it's very unique in that way, and it's a really cool instrument in that way. It's also limiting in that way, but it's great for the music of Bach and all of that generation and beforehand, and really going up to about the mid-19th century when when electricity came in and organs started to have electricity and getting much bigger, and so I kind of say up to Mendelssohn is what this organ is really suited to, but I play all kinds of music on it and I think kind of make it work. Let's go up and see what it's all about. So first we'll start off with the console. This is kind of the control center of the organ where the instrument is played. So you've got the pedals down here and the keyboards up here, which are called manuals. And then we've got all the stops, and they are on either side of the manuals. The manuals obviously again are keyboards, like a piano, very similar to the black and whites. But then what's different is that you have all of these draw knobs that come out and go back in. And so the reason that they're called stops is because when they're pushed in, they stop the sound. So if I pull this out, it'll just go on forever and ever. But then if I push it in, nothing happens. That's why they're called stops. The interesting thing about this organ is that, or one of the many interesting things actually, is that a lot of times you'll have one keyboard is this much stops, the next one is this much stops, and the pedals are all over here. But on this instrument, we have pedals that run across there and then go over here. And then the top manual is here and runs over there, and then the bottom manual is this bottom row and runs across here. So that's one of the first things that a new organist has to get used to. The other cool thing, I'm sure I'll keep saying that, another cool thing about this organ is that it is mechanical action, which means that from the moment you press a key to the moment that you hear the sound, there is a physical link between the key and the stop making the sound, and I'll show you a little bit more of that later. Other more modern organs, that happens through electronic cables and all that kind of stuff, but there is a physical link. So now I just want to show you kind of some of the different sounds. So if you look here at this one, principal, that's kind of like, that's what I was just playing before. That's like the typical organ sound. And you've got a principal 8 foot, which denotes how long the pipe is. It's actually 8 feet long. Then this one, kind of worn off, but it's 16 foot, 4 foot, 2 2/3 foot, which is kind of different. 2 foot, 1 1/3. This one's a mixture, that one's a little bit different. And then we'll talk about the trumpet a little later. But you have principals in each division of the organ, the manuals and the pedal. So here's an 8 foot principal in the pedal, octave, 4 foot principal down here in the roque positive, which is actually behind me right now. I'll show you that in a little bit. As I said, it's kind of the typical organ sound And then you add more to it, and that makes it an octave higher. And then you can add this one, and it makes it even one more octave. And then you add the pedals, which this bourdon is actually a flute, but it's the 16-foot and the pedal. So then you sounds like this. So that's kind of the principal sound, and you can add in the rook positive. It's a little bit softer, but those are the principal sounds, where the foundation stops of the organ. So then we have the flute sounds, and there are several flute sounds on this organ. All organs have flute sounds on them. This one is the koppel flute. Very nice. And then you can put on a 4-foot flute and even a 2-foot flute. So you get a really nice sound, and that's all on this lower manual. Then in the Hauptwerk, the upper manual, you've got the Rohrflöte and the Spitzflöte. And I use this one a lot when I accompany the choir. And the cool thing about this is that, so if you look down here, there's this pedal, and you can close it down or you can open it up. And I'll show you what that is later, but these 3 stops are inside of a box that has levers where you can open and close it to make it louder or softer. So you hear. So then the box is closed and it's a little softer, and then it opens up. So that's a cool feature that organs have, because other than doing that, there's no way to make it louder or softer, to make any stop louder or softer. It's just one volume, you know, and it just goes for an ever and ever. There are some flutes in the pedal too. Pomer is really nice. Oops. And then there's the 16-foot bourdon, which I often use those together. And then there's also a really pretty 2-foot flute, which is kind of unusual because it's very high pitched and it's in the pedal. And usually you do bass notes. So I think I've used that all of one time. But anyway, so those are the flute. Now we're gonna look at the reeds. Reed instrument is like a clarinet or a saxophone. Oboe and bassoon are double reeds. But in organs, the reeds, they can be some of those instruments, but they're also like trumpet stops, like this one that's on the Hauptwerk. And so there actually is a reed that's inside of the pipe that makes that unique sound. So that's the reed, and the main part of the Hauptwerk, the main manual of the organ. And then over here is this really unique, beautiful stop, the viola da gamba, kind of similar to a cello. And so you would think that actually it would have more of a sound like this Gemshorn, which is stringy, but this viola da gamba is different in that it is a reed. And I've been told that in Baroque organs, sometimes the viola da gamba was a reed, and so I think the builder kind of wanted to go with that. So those are the reeds on the Hauptwerk. Then in the Rook Positiv, there's this Krummhorn, which kind of has a clarinet sound. It's really nice. There's this interesting 16-foot reed called a Sordon. It sounds really weird. So it's really soft and it's pretty weird. Then we have 3 reeds in the pedal: the fagot, the trumpet, and the Schaume. Fagot is German for bassoon, and it is the kind of bigger 16-foot reed. And then there's this nice trumpet. And then we kind of have this more weird sounding Schaume, which again I don't use very much. But it's pretty nice. So to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reed stops and an organ of this size is pretty amazing. So now we're gonna talk about mixtures. Mixture. So this is the one that's in the pedal, and mixtures are interesting stops because they actually play multiple pipes at one time. And it's to give kind of a shimmery effect. So here's the mixture in the Hauptwerk. And alone, it sounds like this. So again, it's to add kind of a shimmery tone. So if I added it to the principal chorus, it would sound like this. And so then you add in the principal chorus in the pedal, add in that mixture. It sounds like that. And then this one in the Repositive is very nice as well. Oops. And a lot of times what I do is I add this mixture on when I'm using these 3 stops to add a nice shimmery tone. What you can do is you can couple the lower manual to the upper manual by pulling out this stop, and then they play together. So if you can see, I'll do it maybe down here. So see how that bottom manual was playing as I was playing this upper manual. And that again is just a mechanical thing that they can be coupled together, and then you can couple the Hauptwerk to the pedal, and you can couple the Positiv to the pedal. So if you do that, then you can see they're all playing at the same time. So that's pretty cool, and that produces a pretty big effect. The other mixtures are this quint 2 2/3, and actually this is not at the same pitch as the rest of the pipes. So so if you add it in like a 2-foot, let's do it down here so you can kind of hear it better. So it produces the 5th above, or below, I guess, this stop. And so when you add it into a principal chorus, it gives a unique sound. It kind of just is a fuller sound. And then there are a couple over here in the Repositive. This Sesquilterra. And then the Nazard. It's a very high-pitched stop. I want to show you one more. This one, the Quintade in the Hauptwerk, is a 16-foot. So it sounds like this. And I don't use that one very often, but sometimes for really big sounds, I'll use it. And another very interesting stop is this one over here called the Tremulant. And so I'm gonna pull this out. And I don't know if you can hear the kind of wah, 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 wah that's going on. So this produces kind of a tremolo effect. So if I pull on, say, these 3 stops, I actually use these together quite a lot. So I think you can kind of hear that. It's kind of like, it's supposed to be like vibrato. It kind of is slow on this organ, and so the wah wah wah, it should be more like wah 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 to produce kind of a vibrato effect. But anyway, these combination of stops, and then a lot of times all of these are used together to produce kind of a solo. And that's called a cornet, special combination of stops all together. That is all of the stops. All right, so now I kind of want to show you the insides of the organ. So this is the inside of the rook positive, which is the part that hangs over the balcony. And so yeah, here are all the pipes in the rook positive. There are some teeny tiny pipes. I think those are for the mixture and the 1 foot. And then you can see the sanctuary down there, which is pretty cool. So this is an example. So this is, we're outside of the organ right now. So opening up this panel shows you, these are like the strips of leather and metal where, like I was saying, there's a physical link between the keys and going to the pipes. So that's what these are. A lot of times people call them trackers. Here's another view of some of them over here. This is kind of on the side of it, and you can see some of the air to the pipes. These right here, these are pipes. They're turned sideways, which is a feature of many organs because you have to make everything fit. Here's some tools that the organ tuner uses. That's some of the trackers. So now we are back behind the organ. As you can see, so I've got a couple panels open. This organ is really, really well built because if you see all these panels, you can open all of those up to get to pipes that you need to get to. And so organ tuners really like that because it makes things easy to get to. So this long box here is where the blower is, and that's the only part of the organ that is electronic. So you flip a switch and that turns on the blower, which brings all the air to the organ. And so this part right here, as you can see, it's inside of a box. Like I was saying, where I turn that pedal to open and close it. So this is that box. So here are all the pipes that are in there. These pipes with this kind of chimney thing are the viola da gamba. And then these are the ones with the felt. Those are the flute. These are the 8-foot flute, and then these ones are the 4-foot flute. Okay, so now we are inside the main part of the organ. So here are all these pipes. These ones here are the, actually I'm not quite sure. I think that those are the principal, the 8-foot principal, and the Hauptwerk, very first one that I played. But then there's all these, and you can see down there, those wooden ones. And so if you look, there's kind of these like metal scrolls, and what those are for tuning the pipes. And so when the tuner comes, he has to tune every single one of these pipes. Every single one. And then the felt on these ones, there's a cap. There's a cap on top of these pipes, and so they kind of raise or lower the cap to tune those pipes. But yeah, every single one of these pipes. And so as you see, what's cool is there's these hoses. Each one of these pipes, those are the air to each one of those pipes. So those ones are individually aired a lot of times. So if you look down, these pipes are all kind of on a case, and so there's air underneath all of those, but these ones are individually. And then if you look down here, there's even more. So that's pretty cool and actually pretty unique. And these ones right here are the ones that you see. Yeah, see, there's the sanctuary down there. It's kind of blurry. Focus. Doesn't want to focus, but anyway. So yeah. And then this is, like I was saying before, this is that box. And see, there's like weights. So it's all done by mechanics, which is really cool.